Welcome to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show, sponsored by Bricks Real Estate. I'm Kirk Duckwall. Joining me is Chad Vandelot and Brian Durham, and we are the House Geeks. If you have any questions for us, make sure you give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Or you can check us out online anytime at housegeeks.com for the latest and greatest home searching and researching tools. Also, check us out on our House Geeks Facebook page for upcoming events, classes, or watch us record live Wednesdays at noon. Today we're going to be talking about house hunting and open houses. Now, we briefly, in probably many shows, have touched on pieces of this, but I really kind of wanted to focus in on the early part of that searching process. And, I mean, I'm sure you guys would agree with me in studio here that how important is that first couple of steps for those home buyers out there? I mean, I think it kind of sets the stage.
Yeah, it sets the whole process and gets things moving in the right direction quickly.
And would you agree that if it's not kind of, the stage is not set right, it can cause kind of a snowball effect later on? Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times have you had somebody that wants to go out and see a house to get super excited right away, right? Because they've been looking, they've been doing everything by themselves with no help, and they see this house and they love it, they buy it, and then they realize the process, and they're like, oh, wait, maybe I need to think about this more. Oh, maybe I need to do more research. Mm-hmm. Oh, maybe I want to back out of this offer. Oh, crud, I just paid for an inspection and appraisal. You know, all these things that start to build up where, you know, setting that stage right away, I think is so important that, you know, those right couple of steps right out of the gate can save a ton of heartache.
Yeah, another area where I see heartache is there are fantastic real estate photographers out there these days. They can make small dark houses look large and bright and airy. And there's bad real estate photographers out there, a.k.a. the realtor with his cell phone, which is not doing any client any
Chad,
good.
it's 12 megapixels, Chad. It's 12 megapixels.
Yeah, so, you know, one of the things we do in the class is to teach people to look at the photographs, but kind of look past them, you know.
It should be the second, maybe third thing you're looking at when you look at a listing is those photographs.
Oh, yeah. And in the next segment, I think we're going to really dig into how to pick apart those listings online. You know, I guess the question that as I was getting ready for the show is, do you look into the areas you want to live in first, or do you look into the type of house you want to live in first?
Well, I think it...
Or do they go hand in hand?
Well, I think they kind of go together. I mean, depending on where you're going to look is somewhat going to dictate the type of house you're going to buy.
But does the average client realize that?
Well, that's where I started to go, wow, it became this much deeper question as I was kind of digging into the show today, was that, you know, hey, I want to live in, you know, Roseville. I want to live in Hopkins, or I want to live in Minneapolis. Well, okay, what style of home do you want? Well, okay, so I want to live in Minneapolis, but, you know, I want a 1960s split level, or I want a two-story with a big open floor plan and an attached garage.
Or I want a Victorian-style home in Eagan.
Right, exactly. So now we get into that, and I know when we did our styles show, and you can listen to any of our past shows if you go to SoundCloud, and in one of the ones that we did a while back, I think it was, early on this last year, was housing styles in the Twin Cities, mm-hmm. and pros and cons, and where those are located. And so the thing that we got into is, you know, you're not going to find certain styles, or very unlikely to find certain styles in certain areas, or certain price points for certain styles in certain areas. So setting those expectations appropriately, and this is why I think it is so important when you are like, I think we should buy a house, or I think it's time to sell our house and move, that conversation with an agent starts right away to kind of dig into these nuances of what you're ultimately looking for. But, you know, if we are talking about, area, what is it that a buyer should be looking at? I think the first thing that comes to mind maybe commuting distance.
Yeah, that's a big one. I think a lot of that's very individualistic per buyer.
Mhm.
And that's where, that's one of the first things I talk about, and I know we all do when we're talking with the new prospective buyer is where are you looking and why? What's important to you in a new home?
Mhm.
Because it's so, I talked to 3 different people this last week that want acreage in the South Metro. Okay, all 3 of them want acreage for completely separate reasons.
Hey, there's a
So-
3-acre property down in Elko, if you want to gut it.
That was a great one, if you want to knock the house down. But I mean, it's so individualistic. Same people looking for approximately the same style of property, but they all 3 want it for very separate reasons. So that's where, we always preach this, but it's where you really want to talk to your agent and find out, so we can figure out what they want and then help them get there, because there's so much stuff out there on the market, they can feel overwhelmed sometimes if you're not there to help kind of narrow things in. It's that laser focus versus the shotgun approach,
Yeah, the other piece that's come into play the last 3-ish years is the low inventory, right? So if you're not focused on what you're looking for and have a clear plan on what you're willing to, your must-haves and your wants and I'd like to have this, but I can do without it, and then focus in to see the right properties at the right time. The good ones are selling very, very, very quickly.
Well, I think you need to, if you're like, hey, I'm 4 months out from buying, that you need to set those expectations right now, because
Mhm.
with that low inventory, I mean, we're at at least a 12-year low in inventory. It's as far as back that I could look on the stats, and we are down. Last year was historically low. The year before was historically low. Now we're down another like 2,500 listings in the Twin Cities.
Mhm.
We're getting. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that 18,000, 21,000 listings on the market was normal. We are down at about 10.
Yeah.
So we're half of what there was a few years back.
An interesting stat from last week's show on the winter market. In November, the number of sales as compared to last November is up 25%. That's a big jump. Well, at the same time, inventory was down, roughly 22%.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot less inventory and a lot more sales.
Well, I know that's what I've been getting a lot of people contacting me, starting to get ready, thinking they want to buy May, June, and they'll contact me on a specific property, and unfortunately, you have to just be honest with them and say, you know what, that property's probably going to be gone then, and just about everything that is on the market now will probably be gone by the time you buy in 4 months. So it's,
Yeah, if a
'cause
house
we just
is-
don't have that many months of inventory on the market.
What was that? 2.7 months of inventory?
Yeah, it was under 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I
I mean,
think it was even under 2.7, which is dramatically low.
So, I mean, setting those expectations, I mean, you brought up the acreage. I mean, I had somebody who was looking for lots of land. I don't know if we're quite talking acreage, but like in Edina, around 500K. So it's like, are we going to, yes, 500K, we can find a house in Edina.
Mhm.
We can find probably a pretty nice house in Edina,
0.18 or 0.2 acres.
Yeah, exactly. But what's more important, acreage or location?
Yep.
And sometimes too, and this is a tough one, that location. And I know, we live in the South Metro. I've lived in the far North Metro before. If you are looking for that privacy, if you're looking for that open space, that that extra 5 minutes drive, it doesn't feel like what it does.
It's worth it.
It can be, yeah, exactly. So it goes back to that setting expectations. What's more important? But obviously, we're going to try to work with you to figure that piece of the pie out. So location, distance to work. Another big thing for a lot of people is school district.
Mm.
And what's funny is it used to be very distinct front runners for many years in school district that we would see your Edina, Minnetonka, Matamidi, Mounds View, Lakeville,
Lakeville.
yeah, kind of competing. Well, now we're seeing other ones kind of jumping into that mix. I think our school systems are becoming a lot more on a level playing field, more and more as time goes on. Because if you look at those top 10 over the last 5-10 years, you'll see that. But there are some really, really good researching sites. Personally, the ones that I don't like that much are the just straight review sites, because a lot of times it's people going on there to
Very
complain.
subjective,
Yeah. Oh, I had a bad experience. I'm going to complain about a school. One of the ones that we have is a state website, ranking website, that's linked right up with the Homebuyer Scouting Report tool that we utilize. I love that one because we can see, math, science, reading, how's the performance, not only on against the district, but also against the state.
level.
So you can kind of see how everything, and so you can go school by school and see real performance. Yeah, you can look at like student to teacher ratio and all that stuff. Versus a lot of those review sites, they're just trying to get you to subscribe or, whatever it may be, pump ads in front of you, where this is just pure data. And we are pretty data-driven people. So we're going to take a quick...
Called the House Geeks for a reason.
Yes.
Yeah.
All
Not
right.
ashamed to admit that.
All right, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. If you have any questions for us, you can give us a call at 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Also, check us out online at housegeeks.com, where you can get any of these searching and researching tools that we're talking about. We'll be right back. Turkey's done.
Sweet.
All right.
So
lunch is
normally at this time we tend to crack jokes about our boss Danny Beadle, but since we're on Facebook Live right
No, we shouldn't
now,
do that.
We,
No,
we
that-
probably shouldn't do that.
Is he still watching?
I don't know.
No,
I
is he?
doubt it. I mean, he's got to be gone by now.
Yeah, he's a pretty busy guy.
All right.
We
so,
shouldn't talk about Jessica Brunsell either right now because she may be watching as well.
No, she's busy.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
is busy.
yeah.
We hardly see her anymore.
I know it is. Now that we've opened more offices, we don't see quite as many of our friends. All right. Let's see how long should I let this side of the turkey cook? You completely messed around my pages when you photocopied this.
Good job, Chad.
Yeah.
Thank
Good
you.
work.
I'm surprised it phased you. You're usually unfazable. You just kind of head straight forward without looking back, don't you?
Right into the wall.
Yeah.
So nice of you.
Yeah,
Thanks for the water.
yeah, you're welcome.
All right, are we? Yeah, we'll get back into some of the researching sites, some of the other ones, and then I got the priority checklist I want to touch on.
Mhm.
All right, ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show on AM 950 with the House Geeks, brought to you by Bricks Real Estate. You can check us out online anytime at housegeeks.com or follow us on Facebook and the House Geeks Facebook page, where you can see upcoming events, free classes, or watch us record live most Wednesdays at noon. All right, so we're talking about house hunting and open houses today, kind of the very beginning stage of your search as you begin this process of the biggest investment that most people ever make. And that's why I drill on this so often, because I really do take it wholeheartedly that I want to see this investment go well. I want you to be happy with where you decide to be. I want to provide an outside perspective, sometimes critical thinking, just not a head nodder, not somebody to show you the pretty stuff in this
Just
process.
Open doors.
Because exactly.
You're
This
not
is
really
this is a really fun and exciting process. I love it. This is what keeps me going every day, going out, looking at houses. I always see new things, always learning stuff, but always able to take that and bring it back to clients, which is fun. You know, I know when I meet up with buyers or sellers, we get done and they're like, you're really passionate. You really like what you're doing. And I do. It has its high points, which keep us going, you know, and so we want to see that be a successful home purchase for everybody. So, you know, narrowing in on this first part is very, very important. So we're talking about, you know, kind of researching areas. We were discussing the school sites that you can utilize. Also, you know, this is one that comes up a lot, crime. You know, where can I find good crime data? And one of the things that always kind of worries me when people start pulling crime websites is not everybody realizes how much actually goes on crime-wise behind the scenes. In a sense, I actually was a volunteer for the South St. Paul Police Reserves for quite a few years. And I was just shocked that, you know, all the little things you never hear about, you know. But it also gave me a real perspective to, you know, what are really good spots, you know, as far as, you know, looking at the Twin Cities in comparison to other areas. That's for sure. So, one of our favorites that we like to talk about is the Trulia website.
Absolutely. My opinion, it's the best.
Yeah. Chad, why don't you know, kind of fill people in on why that one versus, let's say, I think it's like Community Link or something like that. That's another one that I like to use, but that kind of breaks down to individual crimes versus, like you say, the heat map.
The heat map is
great. With Trulia, you can get a really quick snapshot of what's going on in the neighborhood as far as crime is concerned. Breaks it down block by block. It will list the actual crimes that have been reported in that area along the left-hand side. In a real quick snapshot, it comes onto a map. It's a heat map. Safer areas show up in green. The more heavily crime-laden areas will show up in red, and then the color is every spectrum in between.
Well,
and to access that, it's real easy. You're out in an area, you're seeing a home. That home has an address. I just tell my clients to type that address into a search line and put Trulia next to it. And most often, it's the first thing that pops up. You can click on it and instantly know what goes on in that neighborhood as far as crime is concerned.
You know, and as agents, we're not supposed to sit there and provide what we think is safe and unsafe neighborhoods, right?
And quite honestly, everybody's opinion
and
of that
everybody's
is different.
perspective.
Exactly.
I had somebody who had absolutely no issues with some of the higher crime areas in the Twin Cities because, well, they just came from Oakland, you know, and so it just, each person's is so different, and to make that decision based off of real data, not just an opinion, you know. So that's, you know, going back to that House Geeks thing, you know, happy to help, you know, if you're not writing down any of these websites, happy to forward you any of the ones, whether it's Community Link or Trulia or whatever. There are really good researching ones out there. City of Minneapolis has the Shot Spotter. That's always an interesting one to look at. However, I did learn that just keep in mind for anybody that is looking at the Shot Spotter that firecrackers will set that one off.
Oh.
Yes.
Are you sure? I thought they could make the distinction between fireworks and firearms, and I thought they could even make the distinction between different calibers of firearms now.
Well, it's a Shot Spotter activation versus, like, if you pull it up, there's like 3 different categories for that.
Okay.
So, but I believe that it will at least get activated with the loud bang. Probably a backfire of a car would do the same thing. All right, so another good site to look at when researching areas is, you know, one of the questions that I get all the time, and tell me guys, if you know, I want an area that equity is going to grow quickly. And we hear that a lot. And, you know, one of the things we discussed in last week's show was how areas can have fluctuation in that, where, you know, one year you'll have, I think we were like comparing Maplewood to Eden Prairie, or what was that?
And Mac Grove to Cottage Grove.
Right, so certain years you're going to have areas that fluctuate more than another. And I guess what you really want to look at is that long-term growth. And this goes back to that InfoSparks. This is a tool as agents that we have available. There is a tool that if you want to kind of take a little more time, you can go to the Minneapolis Association of Realtors website and pull up the historical data year by year for each city or neighborhood. But that can take a while, especially if you're looking at a lot of different areas. I do really like that association website, just because it does really kind of let you keep that pulse on the market, more or less. I think of it as kind of the stock ticker. If you're a home buyer out there, you should be looking at this. I think, you look at your Zillow growth, and I think it's narrowing it down too much to particular home versus overall
neighborhood or city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah, the real nice thing about the MAR website, or the Minneapolis Area Association of Realtors website, is you can get very general. Click on the skinny. It's a real quick snapshot of what's going on in the Twin Cities as far as home values are concerned. Or you can get as deep as you want to get into it. So it's really great for anybody that wants in-depth analysis or a quick snapshot.
yeah, and then once you start talking to your agents, we have the access to that InfoSparks, which allows us to really dig into, okay, what has that number of pending sales been for a home between 250 and 350 in Bloomington been in the last year, and what are the days on market for that? So you really get very, very specific. I mean, I definitely use this when setting expectations for listings, for sure.
Absolutely.
And I know I've been using it a lot more for buyers as well. Okay.
Well, it helps give them a time frame.
Well, yeah, house has been on market for 80 days. What's the normal for that area, for that price range? Helps us decide where we want to potentially make an offer at. All right, we are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we're going to get into a little bit about the home searching sites themselves and how to best utilize those, and then get into the open house part of it and where to find open houses and how to go about getting the most out of those open houses. We'll be right back. Give us a call if you have any questions. 612-207-5388. Again, 612-207-5388. Check us out online at housegeeks.com. Long segment.
Heading into the long segment, and Brian, I think we should give you some homework in between now and next week. Do you think, Kurt, that Brian should be the one to come up with a joke for in between each one of these commercial segments?
I don't think you'd come. I
think it would.
Well,
I think we still are on Facebook Live, so.
Yeah, but here's the other question: can we trust Brian to come up with a joke that's both funny and appropriate?
I was going to say and tasteful.
Yeah. I give him some.
I guarantee
give
you
him
I can
credit
get you
for
something
coming
funny.
up with something funny.
But
Tasteful and appealing to all audiences, I don't know.
I can do knock-knock jokes.
Oh yeah, let's hear one.
I can't think of one right now. Again.
I like the what is it, the knock-knock joke from Catch Me If You Can? Tom Hanks.
Don't remember it.
I'm not. Well, I can't say it.
Oh, it's one that's inappropriate.
That's not an appropriate one, yeah.
All right.
Come on, Abernathy, let's go. Come on, Frank.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2. You're listening to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show, brought to you by Bricks Real Estate. Check us out online at housegeeks.com, or you can follow us on our House Geeks Facebook page, where you can see upcoming events, free classes, and watch us record live on Wednesdays at noon. All right, and yeah, we also have some really great videos that we post on there as well. You can also check out our Twin Cities Real Estate Show page, which you can get to from that housegeeks.com. Yeah, I just put out not too long ago a interesting video on interest rates for those who are worried about interest rates going up. Take a look at that. I have that on the House Geeks Facebook page as well. All right, so we're talking about house hunting and open houses. Because a lot of people, there's like, what is it? What was it? 45% of home buyers in the United States. I'm sure it's less in Minnesota. Everything seems to be better here in Minnesota. But 45% of buyers in the United States decide to buy a house on a whim. They stop in at an open house, they see a sign, whatever, and they're like, we're going to start the house shopping process. And this is what I call the shotgun approach. Because the likelihood of them actually purchasing that specific home, pretty minimal. It's probably less than 5%.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
That
I want to say the last I heard was 2%, a little over 2%. Does that sound correct to you guys?
That's what
less
I
than
was
5%?
just, yeah,
No.
I was just going to make a guess and say 2%, but yeah, that'd be, way less than 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's because that snowball effect. Oh, we're going to buy a house. Oh, wait, this is a really big investment. No, we got to find out where we're going to get the money to do. We need, maybe this is not the location we want to be. It's all these questions that start to come up, and we're watching that. And if that's something that you would like, if you're listening to the radio show, contact us through the Facebook page or House Geeks website, or you can call that 612-207-5388, and we'll be happy to send that to you. It's a really simple little tool. Really what it is, it just lists off 5 things: price, size, condition, location, neighborhood. And the goal here, this is relatively easy to do if you're by yourself, to rank what's most important to you. Where this becomes fun is when you have somebody else you're buying a house with, that to figure out what the top 2 priorities are. Because it's those that usually you'll never waver from. Most of the time, unless you have just a complete fundamental shift in your search.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, just lost our job. I guess we're going to get a job here. Things changed. We're changing our search. Or, things didn't work out in the home buying, deciding to get a divorce. Now I'm looking at condos. You smile, Brian, but it's true. We've all seen it happen.
Been there. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, but really for most people, it's that top 2 they really don't waver from. The problem is people try to waver from it, and this is where it causes so many distractions in the process that you'll sit there and be like, oh man, I really want to be in Minnetonka. I really want to be there. I always wanted to move there, and so let's start looking at houses. And you get out and you start looking at houses. Oh man, price points were a little more than I thought for what I was wanting to get. All right, let's go to Chanhassen. Let's start looking there. Then you drive out to Chanhassen, and then you're like, oh, man, I love this house, but it's not in Minnetonka.
So it's not Minnetonka.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's go back to Minnetonka and start looking again. And so you look in Minnetonka, and then you're like, maybe let's go to Wayzata or wherever. You start going, and you keep drifting. And this is where I say you got to put those blinders on. You got to focus, because what's going to happen is when you're driving out to look at this other place, or when you start to lose sight and you keep expanding your search, this is where the one falls through the crack.
Yep.
That they look at other things for sale. It's pretty easy to identify, hey, I want a minivan. We're going to go look at minivans. And you're not like when you walk in the lot, oh, I got to drive that truck. Oh, I'm going to drive this car. Oh, I'm going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
No, you test drive the minivan. So what you really want to do is figure that out. And this home buyer checklist can really help with that. And you lock in those 2 top criteria.
And don't deviate from them. That's the thing. When you set those as a buyer, when they pick those 2 things that are the most important to them, stick with them. Sometimes it can get frustrating where, I have to be in this area. My kids are in this school district. I don't want to move my kids out of the school district. but there's just not a lot of inventory right now there in the price point that you want.
It's better to rent for 6 more months than, because what happens when they deviate and make that mistake?
They're not happy 6 months or a year later,
And now they're selling,
and they're looking at selling.
and now they're bringing cash to the table, or the prices of homes that they were looking at have gone up, or something. You know, it's not usually a positive when you have to sell so quickly. You want to take a little time to figure those things out. So price, size, condition, location, neighborhood. Now, a lot of people think, okay, location and neighborhood, aren't those the same things? And no, not really. Location is, you know, I want to be in St. Paul. I want to be in, you know, Roseville or Arden Hills, whatever it might be. Pick a location. Neighborhood is what's right around you, you know, and so.
And do you want walking distance to everything, or are you okay with getting in the car and driving 5 minutes to the grocery store?
Exactly. And so it goes back to that, you know, figuring out what's important to you there, narrowing in on area, having that discussion about style. And when I say size, what I mean by size is size and layout. You know, it's kind of like a multi-category there. You know, because certain layouts kind of tend to have certain size ranges, you know.
Or certain layouts could be a smaller home, but just feel larger, or you know, because of that layout,
Exactly.
it might function better for your particular family.
But yeah, take that time, have that discussion with your agent, your partner, whatever it may be. Look at critical thinking, because sometimes I'll have somebody say, you know, I'd really like to be here. I'm looking for, you know, this kind of school or this particular school. And I'll be like, well, if you look right over here, there's also, you know, a really good school, but you're getting more of the price point you want. So you want that objective thinking sometimes, because you might be able to check off more of those boxes to hit really what your priorities are. So one of the tools that we like to utilize, and this gets into the home searching itself, which is, you know, all this tends to happen very quickly. You know, for a person, probably happens quicker than this show is taking. that you know, oh, we see a house, oh, let's pull out our phone, let's see what's in the neighborhood, let's call an agent, right? You know, happens in 3 minutes, 4 minutes. The thing is, this should happen at least over a dinner with your spouse, a meeting with your loan officer, an evening of searching and discussions with your realtor, okay, to kind of get this going, to really figure this out. Because that other approach, that 3-minute approach, things are going to go wrong. It can get very costly very fast. You buy in the wrong spot, you get the wrong type of financing, you get non-objective opinions sometimes on houses if you're calling the listing agents.
This is where it's so important to pre-plan and plan it and then work your plan. Otherwise, you're planning to fail. Because if you're not set up, and you don't want to rush and make these decisions on a snap whim, because again, we pound this and preach it, but it is the biggest financial decision you're going to make in your life. So it's so important to get the plan together and then work your plan.
And then on the flip side of that coin is, when you do find the home that matches your plan, you need to be ready to go.
To move, exactly.
Because odds are in this market, if you like it, somebody else will. So what do I mean by being ready to go? That means that you know that this isn't an area that you want. You know that this is a home style that you want. You've looked at a couple homes and you know the value of that home style in that area. So now you're starting to put together a comfort level as to what's going on, so that you can be ready and enthusiastic about getting your foot in the door with an offer when you do walk in there and see something you like.
Yeah, it's not about looking at a million homes, you know, and that's what I think a lot of people think when starting this process. You're right, Brian. It's putting together that plan and sticking to that plan. If you do that, you might only look at 2, 3, whatever.
Well,
when you're actually hunting, I'm not talking about figuring out styles.
Out looking at homes in person. I mean, there's a lot of times I'll go out with people and we'll look at 5 homes, 6 homes in person. Now they've probably looked at
hundreds
we
online.
Can see
they've
looked at hundreds or maybe
right.
More online. But again, it's sitting down and planning it out and being ready to move. So that way, when we do go out and they find that one, we know, okay, it's in your budget because we've already talked with your loan officer and we know you're pre-approved to here and you're comfortable to this payment. So we know, okay, it's ready to go and we can pull the trigger and make that move, and you as the buyer are confident and you feel good about it, and you know you're making the right decision versus writing an offer and then, oh, well, gee, did I really want to, that's the worst feeling in the world.
Well,
Or
and
sleeping on it for 2 nights, meanwhile that house
It
is
sells.
being sold.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or getting in there just a little later, and then that home ended up
Now it's
getting into
multiples.
multiple offers. Now you're in what people commonly refer to as a bidding war. And losing out on multiple offers or losing out on your dream home are probably the 2 biggest frustrations that I've run into buyers in the last couple spring markets.
Well, I think it's just, again, it's the plan. It all goes back to the plan.
if you know what you're doing, and yeah, making the offer, I mean, that in itself is a whole nother show and a plan,
Easy,
you know?
yeah.
So, yeah, real quick, I mean, I'm probably not even going to get through this all, but, one of the best searching sites that we like to use is the Home Buyer Scouting Report. This tool is absolutely wonderful because it's up to date. It's showing you everything that currently is on the market and the status with that as basically it happens. So if an offer is put in and it goes contingent, you're going to see that it's contingent, at that point.
Hey, Kirk, I saw this house on Zillow. Can we go see it? Is it still on the market?
I don't know.
I know. Well, it says it's been on for 3,000 days, Kirk. It must be for sale, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when we get these things, inquiries all the time from Zillow, where it's maybe it's a foreclosure property, and if you don't read down far enough into the information, you're not going to see that the foreclosure action took place 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yeah, it sold 6 months
What
ago.
you're seeing isn't necessarily a real live listing, and so utilizing tools that show that is really important. And then how to dig in to those listings once you've identified them. We actually got to take a commercial break again. We'll briefly touch on the website stuff some more and the searching tools when we come back, but also get into the open houses. Real quick, on Wednesday the 18th, we're going to be doing a live recording on, I think it's at 6 o'clock at Nutmeg Brewing in Burnsville. Feel free to come out. Enjoy some great beer. It's good,
fantastic beer.
Fantastic, handcrafted, home, whatever you want to call it. Wonderful beer, 6 o'clock, Burnsville. We'll be right back.
Checking to make sure that we're still recording. It looks like we were, because I think you had a phone call and it cut out for a second.
Oh, and then it
But
came back
then
on.
I believe it's back on.
Well, do you see us on the screen?
I see you on the
All right,
screen.
I'm sure you probably could pull up your phone and somebody would be like, yes, you're still live.
It is recording.
Okay. You guys ready? I can finish up this last segment here.
Just do it live.
And what are we talking about in the beginning of this last segment?
We are doing just a real brief touch on scouting report and how to look at a listing, and then open house. And,
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. But I want to be very brief on the scouting report, as we've discussed that many times in the past.
In depth, yes. And Team USA plays in an hour.
Okay. Yes. Well, we'll make sure you get to your hockey.
This guy's always got his priorities
Yes,
in
he
order,
does.
doesn't he?
Here we go.
As I'm sitting here working.
You're listening to the Twin Cities Real Estate Show with the House Geeks here on AM 950. Check us out online anytime at housegeeks.com for the latest and greatest home searching and researching tools. Many of the tools we're talking about here today are available there. Also, go to our House Geeks Facebook page where you can see upcoming events, free classes that we have, and also watch us record live Wednesdays over the noon hour there. and you can pull up many of our past shows as well. We've been talking about house hunting and open houses. Haven't gotten the open houses much. Kind of finished up the last segment talking about searching sites themselves. And there's a lot of inaccurate information on many of these sites, and the big key is to make sure, no matter who you end up working with,
Exactly.
it is the accuracy of that site. There are many accurate sites out there. We have the ones that we prefer because we feel that they have the most in-depth information.
And the most unbiased. That's the big thing the other huge thing I like with the home scouting report is that it doesn't push bricks listings to the top to where the first 3 pages of the homes you see are only bricks listings.
Right.
It gives you an unbiased.
Here's what's out there. This is the newest stuff that's come on the market.
Correct. 'Cause
Voila.
that's
Exactly.
ultimately what we're here to help you do is find the house that's right for you.
And there are many big box stores out there that push their listings,
The
right?
first 5 pages
Yeah.
are all their listings.
Exactly.
And how that's great for them. How is that great for the client?
Exactly. So when searching homes online, really specs, okay? The pictures can be really deceiving. We talked about that earlier, that you can make a terrible home look amazing and an amazing home
Yes.
look terrible.
Oh yeah.
And
I was in one yesterday.
yeah, it just shocks you. So do not look at those, take those pictures, and really what I use them for is just to figure out the layout. I'm looking at where's the hallway go? Oh, I see the bathroom down that way. Oh, that's the window looks out the front, so that must be the front bedroom. I'm not looking to see how pretty it is. I'm not going to fall for that. I'm going to look at it for what it is. That way I can decide, hey, is this something I really want to spend 45 minutes, getting ready, go out, go see the home, walk through it, to find out, what you don't want to have happen, pull up and be like, I don't like it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what you want to do is that real quick, look at the satellite view, look at the specs, look at the photos. Okay, let's get to the open houses. I'm sure that people are interested in that. I think open houses are a great way to feel out styles and neighborhoods.
Neighborhoods for
Mhm.
sure.
That's about it.
Mhm.
Okay? This is not where you decide you're going to buy that house typically. Now, maybe you walk through the house and it's like, hey, I really like this. And you call up your agent and like, hey, let's set up a second showing. Let's take a look at this. Let's kind of pick through it, fine-tooth comb, and then make that decision. Because sometimes it happens. You stumble across the right property. You're just out and about driving. Or I've had this happen. I'm out shopping with clients. We happen to be out on Sundays doing showings, and we see an open house. How often have we stopped at those open houses? I know at least a few times a year.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, it's an open house. That's kind of looks like what we might be looking for. Let's just take a look. If nothing else, it provides you a different perspective of maybe something you haven't looked at, but it's in the same neighborhood you're looking. So it's a great way to just experience properties. But what you got to be careful of is disclosure as far as what you're saying. Remember, that agent that's there typically
Works for the buyer. Or,
no.
excuse me, works for the seller, not you as the buyer.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So you don't want to be sitting there, oh, I love this house, this is great. Oh, have you had a lot of traffic? Are there any offers on this home? Oh, I got to get my agent back through here. Or, hey, can you help me out? You don't.
This is exactly what we've been looking for. We need to move in the next month and a half, and this is perfect. You've just given up a ton of negotiation.
Oh, yeah.
All of it.
I know
Yes.
you mentioned to me, Brian, before the show that you've.
Oh, I had some clients last year that, unfortunately, it was a house that, quite honestly, might have worked for them, but because they went to the open house and talked a little bit too much, it ended up not getting their offer accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had, through no fault of their own, had another property that we looked at earlier, got to the inspection and found out there were some foundation issues, right? Well, they didn't talk about that it was foundation issues that killed the deal. They just talked about the inspection. They got to inspection and then had problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're telling me all of this after the fact, and I'm sitting there just cringing because now that agent comes back and the sellers are afraid that
Mhm.
your clients are going to be too picky on the inspection and that they're going to
Yeah,
walk
I mean,
away.
just
I mean,
a
it was
simple
just-
thing like you say to that agent, "Yeah, we've been looking, but we lost. We had a deal fall apart on inspection." That sounds innocent. It sounds very innocent, but what that can do, another thing that I'm interested in. I think I'm gonna talk to my agent about making an offer. What happened to me in that situation was that agent ended up calling a buyer that they had and said, "Yeah, it looks like somebody's super interested and going to put in an offer." What did it do? It triggered them to write an offer
Mhm.
first at a higher price than what we might have been able to get it at. So these simple things about open houses. Now, there are some great questions that you can ask that maybe we can't get away with sometimes. One of my favorites is, "Oh yeah, have the sellers found a place yet? Are they moving or moved out?" Especially if it seems like it might be staged, you can start to gauge motivation.
Mhm.
Okay. Or if you know it's empty, how long have they been as an estate property? And start asking these questions. And if the agent's just sitting around twiddling his thumbs, he's not going to think anything of it. Just kind of feel out the situation. But you got to be really, really careful. I mean, the best thing that you can do is walk in. Usually, I will give my clients a stack of business cards, and I will say, "Yeah, hey, I'm working with Kirk Duckwall. Here's his card. If we're interested, he'll contact you." And that tells the agent. I love when buyers do that. "Hey, thank you. When I'm doing an open house, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me know if you have any questions." And they just walk around. So I don't need to sit there and ask them all about their home shopping, where they're at in the process, this, that, and the other thing. I know they have an agent. Let them look.
Well, and I think a lot of agents take a different tack too. I know we've all had this discussion. We don't like single dual agency for ourselves, particularly on my
yeah.
listings. I won't take it, but there are a lot of agents out there. Remember, the average agent sells 4 houses a year in the metro.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of them out there trying to get both sides of that transaction. So it can feel sometimes for the clients that they're being hounded, where if they just say, "Hey, I've got an agent, I'm working with so-and-so," and hand them one of your cards, it's a little less pressure for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I say, I greatly appreciate it when somebody comes into the open and says they have an agent. You're not hiding anything. I get it. You're out exploring. Cool, whatever. But use those opens for checking out neighborhoods,
Styles of homes.
layouts, sizes, all that jazz. That's what open houses are good for. Don't wait for an open to go check out a house. Make sure you're calling your agent as soon as you see a home that you like and go from there. All right. Like I mentioned end of the last break, we are going to be at Nutmeg Brewing in Burnsville on the 18th, 6 p.m. Check us out online, housegeeks.com. Have a good day.